Hey guys, if you don't already know me, my name is Caitlin. I am 26 years old and I live in the Hunter Valley with my now husband as of June. I guess I wanted to come here to share my story and our story with you in regards to bladder extrophy and trying to conceive. We have been officially trying to conceive for almost 12 months. It has been a really, really hard journey for us. So originally growing up, I was never really sure, and it was never really spoken about with my doctors as to whether or not I would be able to naturally conceive. Now, I tried really hard to kind of push it to the back of my mind. At one point, I even got to the point where I was saying to myself, I don't know if I ever want to have my own kids, because I was just so afraid of finding out that I would never be able to naturally have my own kids. Fast forward when I met Dylan and everything changed. I immediately went to, I can't wait to have children with you. And that for me was kind of an unknown territory, and it was really terrifying to think that this is now going to become our lives. So in November of 2017, we decided that we were going to actively start trying. And the first thing my GP said to me, because that was our first protocol, was to go and see our GP before we made any decisions. I hadn't had any reoccurring UTIs at that stage. So I wanted to make sure that everything else was perfectly fine and that they were happy for us to start trying, because the last thing I wanted was for us to fall pregnant and then find out that it wasn't viable for me to carry full term, or at all, really. So we saw my GP and he said, look, to be honest, and it was the most heartbreaking conversation I've ever had, and to be quite honest, I now don't see that GP anymore because of how much it actually broke me. He sat in that office and blatantly said to me, I don't think it is a smart idea for you to have your own children. I think that it is going to be completely unreasonable for your condition and it will put yourself and the baby at risk. But I will send you to a clinic in the closest city to us, which is Newcastle, and you can go and see them at the fertility clinic or the high care pregnancy clinic there, and they will be able to tell you whether or not it is a viable option. So we made the appointment and we had our first appointment at the end of December. At that point we had already started trying because I had researched it and I didn't want to wait. Not necessarily the best idea when you had just been told that it wasn't a good idea. But I kind of had it in my head that that doctor was very old school, and if you had really anything wrong with you, that was what he was going to say. So in December, we went to see the high-risk specialist, and she was there with a renal specialist as well, to basically speak about my kidney health, my bladder health, and everything like that. And they basically said, we have no reason to believe that you will not be able to fall pregnant naturally. You have as much chance as any other person to fall pregnant naturally. And that for me to hear was beyond belief. Like, I honestly was so stoked and so excited that, yeah, we can get right into this. We can, start trying and it's going to happen. And then they said to me, now you are aware that you are actually missing your left fallopian tube. Sorry, what? And they said when I had my augmentation done at 13, so right before I started menstruating and to have my period, my urologist at the time, who was fantastic, had basically given us the option to have a stoma put in, or a Mitrophanoff. And the idea was that they didn't want me to still be incontinent at 13, get my period and have that mess and everything else to deal with at the same time, as well as going through the hormonal stages of being a teenager. So we decided to go through the Mitrophanoff route, where they took part of my bowel, put it onto my bladder to expand it, because to begin with I could only hold 60 mils of liquid. So we went through that route, and while they were in there, they thought, well, while we're here, we're going to check. And they like obviously had my parents sign waivers to say, you know, we're going to check this, but if there is something wrong and we have to do something, like, we need your okay to say that that we can do this, or do whatever we need to basically make sure she's okay. So when they went in, they checked all of my reproductive system and everything. And because my urethra and, sorry, TMI, where my vagina and my urethra are meant to come out separately, they actually join in together and then come out at one hole. So what it was actually happening was I was having reflux between one and the other, and it had actually caused an infection to follow through to one of my fallopian tubes and had completely destroyed it. So they had no other option but to get rid of it. It wasn't going to necessarily cause me any harm, but at the same time, there was no guarantee that I wasn't going to have it removed later on. So I thought, while we're in here, may as well get rid of it, because, you know, if something bad comes of it later, we're just going to have to bring her in for surgery again. So that happened, which I wasn't aware of because I was 13 and didn't really understand how most of that worked, and I didn't really care at that stage, to be honest. And my mum actually said that and when I mentioned it to her, she was like, I kind of remember something like that happening, but at the same time, like, you had just had major surgery, so it wasn't at the forefront of my mind. It wasn't something that, like, I really remembered. And that was perfectly fine. Like, they said to us that we still have every chance of any other normal person, hate saying that word, but every other normal person falling pregnant. So there would be no issues whatsoever. So we went back to see them in January, back to the specialist in the high-risk clinic, just to have a checkup and see how things were going, and to see if we had fallen pregnant yet, to kind of get us on medication to help that, and to, you know, like, obviously get us in touch with a urologist and things like that, to make sure that if we were to fall pregnant, that we had someone there to basically ensure that my kidneys and my bladder would still be functioning perfectly fine. I would be at high risk of recurrent UTIs while being pregnant. So that was a massive thing that they reiterated, was that I needed to get in to see a urologist, which I'm still waiting to do. So we saw them in the January of 2018, and they said, you know, everything seems perfectly fine on our end. We can't really do anything for you here, basically, until you fall pregnant. So basically, call us if you do fall pregnant, good luck, and if you don't, go down, you know, the normal route. So go and see your GP, go and see a fertility clinic. And probably about 2 months ago, so we're in August now, so probably around after the wedding, so say July, August, I had a bit of a breakdown, because to me, knowing that I already have one fallopian tube that's gone, there is a high possibility that something may have happened to the other one in the last 10 years, 13 years, and that not only that, my sister also has polycystic ovary syndrome, and my mum also had trouble trying to conceive, the two of us as well. Not necessarily trouble, but it did take her a while to fall pregnant. So I was kind of starting to stress myself out, because not only do I have bladder extrophy, I, you know, have a few other health conditions. I haven't had much bad luck with bladder extrophy in the last however long. But after the wedding, the night after the wedding, we were in the hotel, had, you know, room service and everything like that, and I could not catheterize. And this lasted for, I think it ended up being 18 hours that I could not go to the toilet for. And if anyone has ever experienced that, it is the most painful experience I've ever had. Out of all the surgeries, out of all the infections I've ever had, I've never had anything that excruciating. And poor Dylan, it was the first time he'd ever had to rush me to the hospital. 11 o'clock at night, an hour away, drove me to the hospital, and we got there and they found out that I actually had a really, really bad infection. two different types of infections. And they said basically because of how much it had progressed, they would assume that it is highly likely that it had been there for a fair while and I just hadn't noticed it. And usually I get so sick with infections. So it was really strange to me that like the only thing that really made me realize that there was something wrong was the fact that I couldn't go to the toilet for 18 hours, which is not normal at all. So they rushed me into the ER, basically had me sitting there for hours. They had a lot of critical patients that night, so I kind of got pushed to the wayside, gave me some gel to basically try and help be able to go to the toilet. Eventually, I think 2 hours after we got there, I finally managed to go by myself, and they came in and went, oh, like, we're so sorry, the doctor's ready to see you now. And he came in and, you know, obviously apologized and said, look, you know, you really do need to go and see your urologist about this. Like, we're going to give you IV antibiotics. And because they couldn't obviously test my urine to see if I had an infection or anything like that until I could actually go to the toilet. And they didn't want to do anything invasive because the doctor hadn't seen me yet. So it was kind of like a waiting process. But at the same time, I was more concerned about the fact that if it was bad, that it was going to affect my kidneys and I needed to be seen then. Completely selfish considering there was people that were a lot more critical than me in there at that point, but that was my main focus, was I need to make sure my kidneys are okay. So so they found out that I had the infections and everything like that, and then I started to panic the following month where we still hadn't fallen pregnant. It had been 8 months roughly by that stage, and we still hadn't fallen pregnant. And they had said to us originally, my GP had said that you have to wait 12 months before you can actually go and see a specialist or a fertility clinic about infertility, because you're not classed as being infertile if you're under 35 until 12 months, which I think is completely ridiculous when you already have a pre-existing condition. So I went back and I found the information that the high-risk clinic had given us. And it actually said in one of their letters that after 6 months of seeing them, if we had not fallen pregnant, they would recommend for us to go and see a fertility clinic. Thank goodness. So we went and saw another GP in town at a different doctor's surgery. And I was gung-ho on the fact that we needed to go and see someone else. I couldn't deal with the heartbreak of how the other doctor was dealing with our condition. So, sorry. So we went and saw our new doctor, who is amazing. And I walked in and said, and Dylan came with me, and I said, you know, like, this is the situation that we're having. You know, we haven't fallen pregnant. It hasn't quite been 12 months yet, but they did recommend 6 months after seeing them, which was in January, was the last time we saw them. And I just really want to get this fast-tracked, because if there is something wrong with my fallopian tubes, or I do have polycystic ovaries, or it is something to do with the fact that I have been having infections, because since that infection that landed me in hospital, I've been having them reoccurringly. So I said, like, I need to get in to see a urologist. This is one I've been recommended by someone on a support group that is apparently amazing and knows our condition and, you know, knows what he's doing, and that completely reassured me. So I said I would like to get in to see him, and I would also like to go and see a fertility specialist. And my biggest thing with having bladder extrophy, or having any disability or condition, disability, whatever you want to call it, or any sort of health condition or issue, even if you just have questions, be your own advocate. Because that was my biggest thing with the GP that I had before. I would say, I want to go and do this, and I need to do this for my own mental health, for me to be able to just calmly go to the next step. And he was like, nope, hasn't been 12 months yet, not happening. And that was not good enough for me. I'm very proactive. I want to make sure that I know what's going on. I need to be in control of it. And anyone who's tried to conceive before and it's failed, it's not something you can be in control of. It's just your body does what it does. So we went and saw this new GP, and I explained everything. And he had seen me previously when I lived in the town that we're in now. I lived here before, and he was my GP then. And he was amazing. So he gave us all the referrals, got us to do some testing and everything like that. And also booked us another appointment to come back and see him to get all the results and everything. Booked us in, well, gave us the referral for the fertility clinic. and basically said, when you come back, we'll discuss it further. So I called up, organised it with the fertility clinic, and organised my urology appointment, which is next month, the month after. I don't even know what month it is. So it's in 2 months' time, which I'm really excited to go and see him. If you do happen to want to know who we are seeing in Newcastle, please let me know and I can pass on those details for you. So our fertility appointment, and why I'm actually making this video and why it kind of, I just decided that I needed to do this. We have our first fertility appointment tomorrow, and I am so excited. And to be honest, even if it's bad news, I just want to know. Like, obviously tomorrow is just going to be a consult on, our history, and it's probably going to be very long, to be honest, explaining where we're at and how we've come to this point and why we're seeing them, basically. And then we'll go from there. And that's perfectly fine, but I am just excited to find out, to make sure that everything else is working perfectly fine, and if it's not, being able to get in and get it sorted. Although we're not on the older side of fertility, I do also think that, if it's not something that doesn't get sorted now and we wait another 6 to 12 months before we actually get in and do something about it, then it could be, 3 or 4 years down the track before we are actually able to have our own kids. And at this stage, it may very well be a possibility that we may not be able to do that. But the reason and I spoke to Dylan about this tonight to make sure he was okay with me sharing this story. The reason I decided to make this video is because I have searched for the last almost 12 months as to pregnancy with bladder extrophy. And the only thing that comes up is babies born with bladder extrophy. Well, I already know about that. So I just feel like it is important for us to be able to be connected in some way to other people who have the same condition. I know that every person with bladder extrophy is completely different. There is no two cases that are basically the exact same. And I'm well aware of that. The issue is that although it is very different, a lot of it is still very similar. A lot of our feelings are very similar. A lot of hospital experience are very similar. They may not be the same, but we basically go down the same path. And if it means that I can help one person to have a little bit more information than what I had to start out with, because I had no idea where to start. And I'm sure a lot of, if there are parents of BE kids watching this, you would know what it's like when you first find out that your child has bladder extrophy. It's like, where do I go? Who do I speak to? Who's going to understand? And that is really probably the most important thing, is that it's the information that I can give to people, but then also the fact that it's that support of knowing that you are not alone in this. And I do know that I have met a few people who have had bladder extrophy and who have had kids, but in saying that, they haven't had their augmentation done. They don't have a matrophenol or stoma, and also haven't had the reproductive issues that I've had with the fallopian tube being taken out as well. So I think the more that I can share for you guys, and also I think for myself as well, the better off we'll all be with it. I apologize if this is a little bit too much information for some of you, and I, hoping that the warning that I'll put on here will hopefully suffice. But yeah, if you do happen to have any questions or anything like that, please let me know. I will update you guys after tomorrow. If you like, please let me know if you would like me to update you, and I will upload a video after tomorrow just explaining how we went and everything like that. And yeah, just let me know if you want me to update you, because I don't want to waste your time by doing these videos if it's not very helpful. So please let me know if it's helpful, and thank you very much for your time.